Welcome to Gunsmoke Theater. I'm Dennis Daly. Very few radio or television programs had such an impact on their medium that they changed everything. One of those shows was Gunsmoke. Yes, it ran 20 years on television, but the TV show was a child of the radio show, which itself ran nearly a decade. Sit back now for the next hour as we go back into the archives and play some of those great episodes of the show that changed everything, Gunsmoke. Norman Macdonald and John Meston, the two driving forces behind Gunsmoke. Macdonald, the producer-director, and John Meston, who wrote nearly all the episodes, many of them used again in the television run of Gunsmoke. Let's talk about those two guys, but first, here's an episode of Gunsmoke from March of 1954.
Around Dodge City and in the territory on west, there's just one way to handle the killers and the spoilers, and that's with a U.S. Marshal and the smell of gun smoke. Gunsmoke, starring William Conrad. The story of the violence that moved west with young America. The story of a man who moved with it. Matt Dillon, United States Marshal.
Barkeep, get down here.
His name's Sam, mister.
That's so. What's your name?
Neil Butler.
Ain't you pretty young to be drinking so much hard liquor, Neil?
I'm 19, but I've been around Dodge longer than you have.
Kind of sassy for a kid, ain't you?
Man enough to ride for Fate Ender.
Fate Ender?
You never heard of him?
Maybe I have.
Anybody that's ever been near a longhorn steer has heard of Fate Ender.
Sure.
He's a hard man to work for, though.
How's that?
Well, he eats one meal a day and don't drink or smoke. So he has a big advantage over the likes of me and you.
Mm-hmm. Does he pay regular?
You looking for a job, mister?
It ain't mister, it's Lee Shin.
Okay, Shin.
And I'm looking for a drink, not a job.
Sam! Hey, Sam!
Yeah, about enough, Neil.
You ain't my nursemaid. I'm buying a drink for me and Lee Shin here.
I've been yelling for one long enough.
Sometimes I'm hard of hearing.
You know, I've seen barkeeps with their heads all busted open.
Shin, huh? And where would you have seen that, Shin?
Texas, maybe?
Well, you ain't in Texas now.
Lay off of him, Sam. He's new around here. Fetch them drinks.
I just don't believe I will.
Now, looky here.
You don't pull much weight around here, do you, Neil?
He's had enough, Shin, and don't you egg him on.
He can take care of himself.
Of course I can. Sam, you give me a drink or by heaven I'll blow a hole in you.
Now take it easy, kid.
You don't think I will, huh?
Well, you better not try.
I'll try.
All right, you hold it, mister. Watch him, Marshal.
I ain't made a move.
No, but you was about to.
It'd have been too bad for you if I had, Bart.
Never mind that. Throw some water on Neil there, Chester.
Right, Mr. Dillon. You got any water, Sam?
What kind of place you think I run?
Well, give me some beer then.
You paying for it?
Mr. Dillon?
Forget it, Chester. The kid's coming to anyway. You're a stranger in Dodge, mister.
Supposing I am.
Don't start any trouble, that's all.
I ain't done a thing. I just been standing here. It's that mean-tempered barkeep started it.
You want me to break a bottle over your head, Shin?
See?
Blast you, Sam. What'd you hit me with, anyway?
The usual. If you try that again, I'll hit you twice.
You sure sobered me some.
Sobered you, did he? What were you doing drunk in the first place?
Now, Mr. Render...
Shut up, Neil. I can tell what's been going on here, and I don't like it.
It's all right now, Mr. Render.
You, going to arrest him, Marshal?
No, I got nothing to arrest him for, Fate.
Drunkenness?
He won't cause any more trouble.
You're trying to protect him, huh? Well, it ain't going to work.
He's sober now. Look at him.
Sure, he's all right, Fate. I just had a little argument with him. Wasn't nothing.
I'm not blaming you, Sam, but a man has to learn to hold his liquor, or not drink at all.
It's a lot easier not to drink at all. The way you do, Fate.
Maybe. But I remember the time I felt I'd come to the estate of man when I'd learned to drink 1 1/2 quarts of whiskey daily.
That's a lot of whiskey.
But I quit. 15 years ago, I quit.
You ain't had a drop since?
Only once. A friend of mine who was a candidate for office tempted me into a glass. I felt like I'd stolen a sheep.
Well, you can't expect everybody to feel the same way, Fate.
I don't, Marshal, but I recognize the weakness for liquor when I see it, and young Neil here's got to learn.
Mr. Ender, I ain't been drunk in 2 weeks. Till today.
2 weeks? Neil, if you ain't man enough to stay away from it longer than that, you ain't man enough to work for me.
You mean I'm fired?
You'll draw your pay tomorrow morning. Good day, gentlemen.
Mr. Ender. That old mosshead. He needs shooting.
You start thinking about finding a job, Neil, not shooting somebody.
Maybe I'm tired of working. Say, where'd that fella Shin go? He's plumb disappeared.
Never mind about him. Look, Neil, they're looking for some help over at the OK Stables. Maybe it'd keep you in feed till you find something else, huh?
Thanks, Marshal. But I got some thinking to do first.
That Fate Ender sure is a hard man, Mr. Dillon.
Hard enough to cure himself of drinking, anyway.
Yeah, but he needn't have been so mean with Neil the other day. He could have gave him a second chance.
Oh, Neil can get another job.
Yes, I know. But I don't cotton to a man being so self-righteous. I'll bet old Ender's made lots of mistakes in his time.
People say he has. Only nobody's caught up with him yet.
What do you mean?
Well, back in Texas, he used to spread a mighty wide loop, Chester. I expect it was a long time before he paid money for any calves.
Oh, well, I never heard he was a thief.
Oh, he isn't. Not now. It was just after the war, when everybody was branding anything in sight. Cattle were running wild then, what with so few men to look after them.
Yes, sir, I know. One of my brothers got caught at it.
Oh? You never told me that, Chester.
Well, it's something us Proudfoots don't bring up very often, Mr. Dillon.
No. No, of course not.
No, sir. My brother wouldn't like it.
What?
Well, he's a banker now.
A banker?
Yes, sir. At a place called Pavo. That's over west of San Antone. Real dry country there. He likes it, but I sure don't. My goodness, the wind and the dust is just
Matt!
Hello, Doc.
So you better come upstairs.
Oh, what's the trouble?
Fate Ender. He didn't want to see you, but I sneaked down anyway.
He didn't want to see me about what?
I just took a bullet out of his arm, Matt.
What?
And he's talking about killing the man that put it there.
Who?
He didn't say.
Wait here, Chester.
I didn't hear about no gunfight, Mr. Dillon.
Neither did I. Is he hurt bad, Doc?
I didn't even break the bone, Matt. It'll be a mite painful for a while. He's resting a little right now. That's how I got away.
Well, I'm glad you did.
I might have known that's where you went, Doc.
No man comes in here carrying a bullet without my telling the marshal, Fate.
How'd this happen, Fate?
I'll skin my own snakes, Marshal.
Not around here, you won't.
I've killed men before, and I don't need no help to do it again.
Somebody took a wild shot at you, is that it?
Not so wild it didn't hit me.
Well, maybe he wasn't trying to kill you.
He didn't get close enough for any such trick shooting. Little coward.
Oh. You think it was Neil, huh?
Of course it was. And I'll kill him. I'll kill him sure, Marshal.
Why do you think it was Neil, Fate?
I know it was. Tried to kill me while I was crossing the Arkansas on my way into town. He was a quarter mile off, behind a bluff. Just too bad for him he didn't hit my gun arm.
Now, wait a minute. If he was behind a bluff, how do you know who it was?
You're just complicating things, Marshal. I heard he threatened to kill me the other day when I fired him.
All right, Fate. I'll find him, and if we can prove he did it, he'll go to jail.
He won't go to jail if I find him first, Marshal. You won't stop me. I've lived too long to be killed by some hot-headed kid.
You got a right to protect yourself, Fate. But murder's a hanging offense these days.
And if you don't want to see me hung, you better move fast, Marshal.
We will return for the second act of Gunsmoke in just a moment. But first, Barbara Stanwyck and Barry Sullivan play their original screen roles again in the Lux Radio Theater adaptation of Jeopardy! It's the story of a wife who encounters a killer during her frantic race to save her husband from death. Remember, Jeopardy! On the Lux Radio Theater Monday night over most of these same stations. On the same evening, hear Victor Mature in The Girl in Car 32 on Suspense. Mature plays a cop who, chasing a jewel thief, finds love along the way. Hear Suspense, also Monday night at the Star's Address. Now the second act of Gunsmoke.
For all his hard-headedness, Fate Ender was as good a citizen as any around Dodge. And in some ways, a lot better. In any case, I didn't want to see him hung any more than I wanted to see young Neil shot. And since Fate wasn't the kind of a man you could argue with or throw in jail to cool off, I went looking for Neil. He wasn't at the OK stable, but a small boy there told us that he'd be right back. So Chester and I sat down in one of the stores and waited.
Mr. Dillon, you don't think Neil's going to admit trying to stage an ambush, do you?
Well, he'd be a fool if he did, Chester.
And what are you going to do with him?
I don't know. Maybe he'll do it by himself.
Just
What?
like I told you
Shh.
before.
Yeah, maybe this is
Man,
him.
that mean deserves to die, Neil. It don't matter not who killed him.
Hey, it's that fella Shin.
Be quiet, Chester.
Well, sometimes I think it'd be worth hanging for, even if I did get caught.
That's more like it, kid. Don't you let nobody bluff you.
He ain't all bluff. I've seen him.
Neil, Fate Ender's like a Confederate dollar. Like 500 Confederate dollars, in fact. He's just that no good.
Well, I don't know. But anyways, he sure didn't treat me fair. I shouldn't have talked so much about shooting him.
Don't you worry, kid. They can't do nothing to you. They can't prove nothing at all.
Of course they can't.
What's there to prove, Neil?
Marshal,
Take your hand off that gun, Shin.
Why, sure.
shouldn't jump out at a man like that, Marshal.
Well, my being here wouldn't bother most men.
What do you mean?
I take it you've heard about Fate Ender getting shot.
I heard. And he's saying I did it, too.
Well,
Don't tell him nothing, kid. You don't need no alibi.
suppose you stay out of this, Shin.
Well, why should I? I'm the only friend Neil's got around
Neil
here.
can talk for himself.
Everybody's got a rope on the kid. It ain't
That's
fair.
enough out of you.
He's just trying to help me, Marshal. But he don't need to. I can prove I wasn't anywhere near there.
Oh? Well, how do you know where it happened, Neil?
A friend of mine met him on the way into town. Ender told him all about it, and he come straight off and told me. Ender says it was at noon, Marshal. You want to know where I was at noon?
Yeah, where?
At the Texas Trail, talking to Kitty. I'm going back there right now and get her to prove it before Ender find me and tries to kill me.
Now, wait a minute, Neil.
Let him go.
It won't do any good, kid.
Of course it will.
Darn fool, kid.
Shin. Why won't it do any good?
There's nobody'll believe either of them. You'll say they're both lying. He's paid off Kitty or something.
Stop right there, Neil. No.
Hey, that was Fate Ender, Mr. Dillon.
Yeah. All right, drop that gun, Fate. Drop it.
Don't let him shoot me again.
I ain't gonna shoot you again. Not this time, anyway. Here. Take my gun, Marshal.
You know, you don't have to kill a man to go to jail, Fate. All right, Chester, keep an eye on him.
Yes, sir.
How are you, Neil?
He busted my shoulder, Marshal.
Well, you're lucky.
I seen him coming and I got scared. But I wasn't fast enough.
You weren't fast enough?
I know him. He'd never bother saying so. But I drew first, Marshal. I gotta admit it.
No. Chester,
Yes, sir.
give Neil a hand here, huh? Taking up the docks.
Okay, Mr. Dillon.
Shin can help you, Chester.
He's run off, Neil. Seems like he's kind of gun shy. All right, now, come on. Get your arm around me.
Be
here.
careful. Put it on
There we are. Well, walk some, Neil. It's your shoulder hurt.
Tell me something, Fate. How come you didn't finish him off while you had the chance?
Well, I would have. The first shot hadn't crippled him. I ain't no murderer, Marshal.
But you'll kill him when he gets well. Is that it?
I'll kill him. Of course I will.
Hello, Matt.
Hiya, Marshal.
Kitty? Sam?
I can tell you're not going to make any money off him today, Sam.
Have a drink on the house, Marshal.
No. Kitty's right, Sam. I didn't come here for pleasure.
I heard about Fate Ender being shot. That what it is, Matt?
Yeah. Kitty, young Neil claims that he was in here at noon talking to you.
Yeah, he was, Matt. Funny thing is, he was talking about Fate most of the time. Sam was here, too. He heard him.
Yeah, sure did. If what he was saying is true, Fate's about the sharpest dealer I ever heard of.
Huh? What do you mean, Sam?
Oh, it's just a story about Fate when he was still in Texas.
Go on. You tell him, Kitty. Tell him.
Well, seems Fate owed a man $500 when the war broke out. But he told him he'd keep it for him so he'd have something when he got out of the Army. That was during the Confederacy, of course. So when the fella came back to collect his money, Fate shoved a whole barrel of it at him and told him to help himself.
Ain't that something, Marshal?
Fate claimed the debt had been made in Confederate money, so that's what he paid off with. Pretty foxy of him, don't you think, Matt?
500 no good Confederate dollars. Kitty. Did Neil say where he'd heard this story?
Oh, that new friend of his, Shin. He told him. Why?
It's a good story, Kitty. It's a real good story.
Neil's fine, Mr. Dillon. Doc's got the bullet out and everything.
Well, there's nothing more I can do now. You're a mighty lucky young fella, Neil.
I don't call getting shot so lucky.
I ain't talking to you, mister. Now, you come back tomorrow, Neil. I'll have to change that dressing.
Sure, Doc. Let's get out of here, Shin.
Okay.
Shin.
Yeah.
Where'd you go after the shooting at the stable?
Nothing I could do for him there, Marshal. Come on, kid.
No, you wait here a minute, Neil. I'd like to talk to you.
What for?
Well, I ain't waiting.
You might be interested in this, too, Shin.
I'll wait for you at the stable, Neil.
That's far enough, Shin.
I've heard all your talk I need, Marshal.
Shin, maybe Fate Ender outsmarted you, but $500 isn't enough to try to kill a man over. Now, wait! Get over by the window, Chester, in case he makes a street. I'm going after him.
Yes, sir. Look at him, Mr. Dillon. Right there.
What?
I got him.
Did you shoot him, Chester? I didn't hear anything.
No, sir. That chamber pot there. I dropped it right on his head.
What?
A bullseye, Mr. Dillon.
Yeah. Well, he's your prisoner, Chester. Come on down and lock him up.
Yes, sir. I'll be right there.
Neil?
Yes, sir.
Marshal here told me the whole story.
Looks like we both made a mistake, Mr. Ender.
Shin wasn't much of a friend, was he? Trying to hide behind you all the time.
I took up with him when I was drunk. That's the whole trouble.
Neil, I'm kind of old. Sometimes I guess I forget what it's like to be young.
Yes, sir.
And Well,
That's all right, Mr. Ender.
no, it ain't all right.
Maybe what he's trying to tell you, Neil, is that he went and paid Doc for fixing you up.
He did?
And Doc says it'll only be a couple of weeks before you can ride again.
Couple of weeks is too long for a little wound like that. I won't have no namby-pambies riding for me. You hear?
Yes, sir. I hear.
Gunsmoke, under the direction of Norman MacDonald, stars William Conrad as Matt Dillon, U.S. Marshal. Tonight's story was specially written for Gunsmoke by John Meston, with music composed and conducted by Rex Corey. Featured in the cast were Vic Perrin, James Ogg, Harry Bartell, and Barney Phillips. Parley Bear as Chester, Howard McNear as Doc, and Georgia Ellis as Kitty. Join us again next week as Matt Dillon, U.S. Marshal, fights to bring law and order out of the wild violence of the West in Gunsmoke.
So who were these two guys who get mentioned every time around when a Gunsmoke episode is aired? First of all, Norm Macdonald. He was the director, the producer of the show, born in 1916 and died in 1979. Along with writer John Meston, Macdonald created Gunsmoke. He served in the military during World War II and took part in the D-Day landings at Normandy. He worked as an assistant director at CBS Radio on the West Coast beginning right after the war and was involved in the critically acclaimed series Escape before starting Gunsmoke in 1952. John Meston was a product of Pueblo, Colorado, and would live until 1979. He was an American radio and television writer and did a lot more work in TV than people realize, and much of the TV was on the television version of Gunsmoke. But it was the great John Meston who had the ability to capture the feel of the Old West and put it into the dialogue that made Gunsmoke work under the direction of Norm Macdonald. Now a second episode of Gunsmoke from March of 1954.
Around Dodge City and in the territory on West, there's just one way to handle the killers and the spoilers, and that's with the U.S. Marshal and the smell of Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke, starring William Conrad. The story of the violence that moved west with young America. The story of a man who moved with it. Matt Dillon, United States Marshal.
Barkeep.
What'll it be, stranger?
Nothing.
What?
I don't drink.
Is that what you come in here for, to tell me you don't drink?
I didn't come in here to tell you nothing, barkeep.
You won't be the first stranger in Dodge I've had to straighten out,
Which
Mr.
one of these men is the marshal?
Marshal?
The marshal. I was told I'd find him here.
He's here. He's sitting right behind you, so don't start nothing.
Oh. Is that him, sitting right there?
That's him.
Marshal Dillon.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you, Marshal.
Well, go ahead.
Do you mind if I sit down?
No.
Now, my name is Ben Corder, Marshal.
Ben Corder.
This is my first time in Dodge.
I know.
And I want to be friends, Marshal.
Why not?
Now, I figure we can do each other a lot of good. A lot of good.
Oh? Is that so?
That sure is. That's why I came to talk to you. See, whenever I come to a new town, I always get to know the man that's running the place. That way I figure there won't be no misunderstandings later on.
Misunderstanding about what?
Well, I'm a gambler, Marshal.
Dodge is an open town, Mr. Corder.
Oh, sure. You see, I make money gambling. Sometimes a lot of money.
You must be pretty lucky.
I'm lucky, all right. But now, you know how sometimes a player will go broke and start a fuss over it, maybe even run to the law about it?
Yeah, I know. And when he does, he's usually been cheated.
Oh, some losers always got to complain about something.
Is that what you came to tell me, Mr. Corder?
Oh, Marshal, you know what I'm talking about. You take care of the troublemakers, and I'll take care of you. Say a quarter of the profits, eh?
Let me explain something to you, Mr. Corder. If a man loses his money gambling, I figure that's his lookout. But I still don't allow any crooked games in Dodge because sooner or later they lead to killing. So you run your game straight, or out you go.
That's not friendly, Marshal.
Now, you've made one mistake, Mr. Corder, trying to bribe me. You make another and you're through here. For good.
Oh, you're one of the hard-nosed lawmen, eh?
You'll find out soon enough, mister.
Will I? Now, I've got an idea that I can persuade you yet, Marshal.
Too far to come by stage coach. K-O-C-H-D-E-N-I. Mr. Dillon,
Yeah, what is it, Chester?
did you ever hear of a place called Deming?
Deming? Oh, that's in New Mexico.
Well, it's a nice place.
Oh, sure. Why?
Oh, this girl I know is going to move there.
Oh? Is she a nice girl, Chester?
She was.
What do you mean she was?
Well, I haven't seen her since she was about 10, and that was over 20 years ago.
Well, what are you writing to the girl for, Chester?
Oh, I don't write to her. I write to her brother, Welby. He tells me about everything.
Well, I better get out before you explain it to me.
He wants me to marry up with her, Mr. Dillon.
Oh, he does, huh?
Yes, sir, but once a year, regular, I write and tell him I won't do it.
Yeah.
She's getting too danged old. That's what's the matter with her.
Well, don't forget to put the lamp out before you leave the office tonight, Chester.
No, sir, I won't.
Get out!
You see anybody? You want the rifle?
No. Crawl over and put the lamp out, Chester, but keep low.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll wait here a minute.
He'll get away.
No, he had a rifle, Chester, and he was in the alley right across the street. It was mighty poor shooting. Unless all he wanted to do was scare me.
Oh, then it was that gambler you told me about. Corder, huh?
Yeah, maybe. But I can't prove it.
Well, you sure ought to do something about it.
I am. Gonna get something to eat.
What?
Well, you go out and drop the word here and there about me getting shot at.
But why?
Just do it, Chester.
Yes, sir.
I'll be around later.
Evening, Matt.
Hello, Kitty. You, busy?
No? Sit down.
Thank you.
I heard about you getting shot at tonight.
Well, I've been shot before, Kitty.
Oh. I suppose I shouldn't worry about it.
Now, Kitty, don't start that.
It's just luck you weren't killed years ago, Matt.
It stopped being luck, Kitty, when I learned how to handle a gun myself.
Sure. And anyway, somebody has to enforce the law, don't they?
Well, that's the way I look at it.
I'm sorry, Matt.
Good evening, Marshal.
Hello, Corder.
Ah, right pretty girl.
How long you been wearing shoes, mister?
Now, look here.
Say what you have to say, Corder.
You sure do make it hard to be friends, Marshal. I only wanted to say that I heard that you got shot at tonight.
So?
Well, I'm sorry it happened, that's all. I don't envy a man has to be a marshal. It's mighty dangerous. Besides that, it usually don't pay very good.
And what do you think I ought to do about it, Corder? Quit?
No, that ain't necessary, Marshal. Because if you were smart, you could stay right here and make good money and be real safe to boot.
I didn't know for sure it was you, Corder. But now I know.
What are you talking about?
There's a stage leaving Dodge about sunup. You're going to be on it.
Oh, no, I'm opening a new game across the street tomorrow.
Now take your gun, Corder.
Oh, wait a minute, Marshal. You can't do that.
I think I can.
Oh, by heaven, you
Corder went to bed early that night, in jail. But I got him up next morning in plenty of time to make the stage. He climbed into it, meek as a bird, and then it left. And I soon forgot about him. Like so many others I'd run out of Dodge, I figured he'd keep going and make his trouble somewhere else. But a couple of weeks later, I found out I'd figured wrong. I was walking up Front Street one afternoon with Doc.
I tell you, Matt, I'm going to take down my shingle one of these days and let all these people find themselves a good vet.
Who's been souring your milk, Doc?
Oh, Miss Humboldt. That's her. She's been coming in every day for a week.
You're usually complaining about a shortage of patients, Doc.
Yeah, well, that woman's not a patient. She's a suicide.
Well, now, Doc, that might be said of anybody who comes to you.
Huh? Oh, yeah. Oh, well, the price for cutting bullets out of you just went up, Matt. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about Miss Humboldt.
Oh, she wants to be bled all the time, and I won't do it.
A lot of people think bleeding's good for them.
Well, I don't, and I just...
Oh, Doc.
All right, Chester.
He's right inside the Alpaganda here, Mr. Dillon. I just saw him.
Who did you see, Chester?
That gambler, Corder.
What?
And he's got somebody else with him, some stranger.
Well, we'll see you later, Doc.
Oh, yeah, well, sure, Matt.
Come on, Chester.
There they are, at the bar, Mr. Dillon.
Well, I'll be...
There he is, Toke. That's him. Him? I'm back, Marshal. Brought a man with me to sort of look after my interests. You won't buffalo him so easy.
Hello, Toke.
You really the marshal here?
Didn't Corder tell you?
He didn't mention no names.
Here, what are you talking about?
Toke Moreland and I are old friends, Corder. We worked and rode a long time together. In fact, we went through quite a lot. Didn't we, Toke?
Too much, Matt. Remember?
Yeah, I remember.
You're marshal now, huh?
And you've sold your gun to Corder here. Is that right?
That's right.
So you're here to kill me?
Yeah. I'm here to kill you.
We will return for the second act of Gunsmoke in just a moment. But first, tomorrow night, Herbert Marshall stars as the Honorable Edmund Burke, British statesman and member of Parliament. Hear his story on CBS Radio tomorrow night on the Radio Hall of Fame with Lionel Barrymore as your host. Now the second act of Gunsmoke.
It was a bad feeling to meet Toke Moreland again after some 15 years, and to have him standing at the bar of the Alafraganza, hired by a crooked gambler to kill me. Toke and I had run horses together over in Colorado, until the night we rode into La Junta and got taken by a drunken mob and beaten half to death. And the next day, when they found out we weren't the men they wanted, it was too late. By then, something had gone wrong inside Toke. And as soon as he could climb on a horse, he'd ridden off without a word. I never saw him again. Until now.
How long you been a marshal?
Quite a while, Toke.
I never figured lawmen for much.
A lot of people don't. Like Quarter here.
Go ahead, Toke. Shoot him. I'll back you up.
I handle my own gunfighting, Quarter.
I want to talk to you, Toke. Come on over to a table.
No, you don't, Marshal. You stay
Shut
right
up,
here.
Quarter. Come on, Toke. Sit down. Well, Toke, is this your profession now? Shooting people?
I gamble a little.
Why do you do it, Toke?
I don't like people much. Not after what happened at La Junta.
Oh, you got over that beating? We both did. Anyway, that was a long time ago.
Maybe my memory is better than yours.
No, it isn't. We both changed after that, Toke.
We sure did.
But in different ways. Now you hate everybody, I just hate mobs. I guess that's one reason I became a lawman.
There was a lawman helping them that night at La Junta. The sheriff himself.
Well, there are good sheriffs and bad.
Like marshals.
Like anybody, Toke.
It's kind of too bad you're a marshal, Matt.
You mean you're going through with this anyway?
I never back off from a fight.
Well, suppose I won't fight.
I get paid all the same. But you'll have to get out of Dodge.
You think I'll do that?
No. But I'll give you 24 hours to worry it around.
All right, Toke. That gives you 24 hours, too.
I don't change. Talk's nothing to me.
But money is.
It adds to the pleasure.
Tell me something, Toke.
Huh?
You'd, enjoy shooting me?
You ain't Matt Dillon no more. You're a lawman. Same as the one who helped him half kill me. You too, at La Junta.
Oh, you're a fool, Toke.
Maybe. But I'm a pretty good gunman.
Sure.
You can let Quarter run his game here, or you can quit.
It's a crooked game. There'd be fights. Men would die.
24 hours, Marshal Dillon.
Okay. 24 hours. Your cut, Chester.
You sure you don't want to stop, Mr. Dillon?
Well, just because I've been losing.
It could be a bad omen, especially today.
That's like I told Kitty, Chester. I don't depend on luck.
Oh, well. You two still playing cards?
Oh, Doc.
Doc, how many, Chester?
One.
Matt, you've been hiding out in here all day long while everybody's talking about how you let that gambler come back to town yesterday after running him out. And I don't like it.
I'm taking 3, Chester. It'll all be settled tonight, Doc.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're saying you're afraid of that gunman he's got with him, that Toke something.
It's your bet, Chester. Doc, don't get drunk too early today, huh? We might need you.
Oh, I quit. I can't even think to bet, Mr. Dillon.
Okay, Chester.
If there's anything I hate, it's a paid gunman.
A paid gunman? Oh, so that's what he is.
Ain't there no way at all to stop him, Mr. Dillon?
How are you going to stop a man that kills just for money?
Just for money. Hey, wait a minute. Doc, do you know where he is now?
Well, he was in the Texas Trail a little while ago, Matt.
Good. I'll be back later.
Toke.
Well, it's Marshal Dillon. Sit down, Marshal. You know Miss Kitty here?
Hello, Matt.
Kitty.
I've been talking about you, me and Kitty. I'm talking about me, too.
Good. That's what I want to talk about, Toke.
Me? Well, go right ahead. But don't stay too long. She's a real pretty girl, Matt.
Maybe I'd better leave.
If you leave, I leave with you.
Matt?
It's all right, Kitty. Stay. Toke, how much is Quarter paying you to get rid of me?
$300.
Now. Well, what if I give you $300?
To shoot him.
You don't care who you kill, do you?
It don't matter much.
No. All right. I'll give you $300 to clear out of here and forget this whole business.
Why?
Well, we were good friends once, Toke, till you got mad and started hating everybody.
You've changed too, Matt. You sure never were a coward in the old days.
Is that what you think I am?
Well, so does Kitty. Don't you, Kitty?
Don't tell me what I think, mister.
He's full of vinegar, Matt. A girl like that deserves a real man. Yeah, I think I'll get my money from Corridor so I can hang around Dodge and get a little better acquainted with her.
No, I am leaving.
Well, I guess there's nothing more to say, Toke.
Nothing I know of. See you in about an hour, Marshal. Unless you go hide.
I told him, Mr. Dillon.
Thanks, Chester.
He said he likes the idea of meeting you in the street.
So do I. There's less chance of anybody else getting hurt out here.
Yes, sir. Uh-oh. There he comes.
Yeah.
Mr. Dillon, I wish you'd...
Get out of the street, Chester.
Yes, sir.
I guess you ain't a coward after all.
Then get out of Dodge, Toke. And take Corder with you.
Corridor don't mean nothing to me.
Does anything?
Just killing people. Especially lawmen.
Okay, Toke. Go ahead.
Watch me. I'm hurt, Matt. Bad.
Yeah.
You hit me. Both times.
I had to.
Funny thing, Matt.
What?
I'm lying here, flooding inside, dying. But I ain't mad no more. I don't hate nobody.
Toke,
It's too late to do anything about it.
Yeah. It's too late, Toke.
Sure. Here it is.
Chester,
Yes, sir.
take care of him, will you?
You going after Corder?
Corder isn't the kind of man who'll stay around after this. No, I'm going for a ride. Alone.
Gunsmoke, under the direction of Norman Macdonnell, stars William Conrad as Matt Dillon, U.S. Marshal. Tonight's story was specially written for Gunsmoke by John Meston, with music composed and conducted by Rex Corey. Featured in the cast were John Daner, Lawrence Dobkin, and Vic Perrin. Parley Bear as Chester, Howard McNear as Doc, and Georgia Ellis as Kitty. Join us again next week as Matt Dillon, U.S. Marshal, fights to bring law and order out of the wild violence of the West in Gunsmoke. Laughs Ahead on CBS Radio tomorrow night with Our Miss Brooks on most of these stations. George Walsh speaking. Stay tuned now for Gangbusters, which follows in a few minutes over most of these same stations. There's comedy with My Little Margie Sunday nights on the CBS Radio Network.
From March of 1954, Gunsmoke. Let's go back into that episode and rerun a couple of minutes of it, and this time listen. Listen to the wonderful dialogue written by John Meston, the incredible camaraderie between William Conrad and the wonderful Parley Bear, and the depth and the richness of the sound effects.
Did you ever hear of a place called Deming?
Deming? Oh, that's in New Mexico.
Well, is it a nice place?
Well, sure. Why?
Oh, this girl I know is going to move there.
Oh? Is she a nice girl, Chester?
She was.
What do you mean she was?
Well, I haven't seen her since she was about 10, and that was over 20 years ago.
Well, what are you writing to the girl for, Chester?
Oh, I don't write to her. I write to her brother, Welby. He tells me about everything.
Well, I better get out before you explain it to me.
He wants me to marry up with her, Mr. Dillon.
Oh, he does, huh?
Yes, sir, but once a year, regular, I write and tell him I won't do it. She's getting too danged old. That's what's the matter with her.
Well, don't forget to put the lamp out before you leave the office tonight, Chester.
No, sir, I won't.
Get out!
You see anybody? You want the rifle?
No. Crawl over and put the lamp out, Chester, but keep low.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll wait here a minute.
He'll get away.
No, he had a rifle, Chester, and he was in the alley right across the street. That was mighty poor shooting. Unless all he wanted to do was scare me.
Oh, then it was that gambler you told me about. Corder, huh?
Yeah, maybe. But I can't prove it.
Well, you sure ought to do something about it.
I am. Gonna get something to eat.
What?
While you go out and drop the word here and there about me getting shot at.
But why?
Just do it, Chester.
Yes, sir.
I'll be around later.
If we are learning nothing else during our long examination of Gunsmoke, we need to realize that a great deal of very talented people had to come together to make all of this possible. And that's it for this time around. I'm Dennis Daly. Thanks for joining me on Gunsmoke Theater as we go back into the archives to play more of the episodes of the radio show that changed everything for the better. Gunsmoke, right here on YouTube.